So the next match is an interesting one. It's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat against Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff with the Assassin as his manager. Yes, Jody Hamilton is coming out to accompany Mr. Wonderful himself. So real quick on this match, Orndorff was a last-minute replacement for Yoshi Kwan. For those that might not remember Yoshi Kwan or try real hard to forget Yoshi Kwan, that is Chris Champion of the New Breed in a Asian gimmick. It was actually supposed to be Yoshi Kwan, like a Hunanese martial artist from China. But the rumor was that Tony Schiavone could not say that and kept referring to him as Yoshi Kwan, as in Yoshi being from Japan. So he became Japanese because of Tony Schiavone. So thank you, Mr. Schiavone. And Kwan and Steamboat were, I believe that most their feud kind of was anchored in the fact that Kwan cost Steamboat a match against Vader for the title, and that just was going to prompt this match here at Havoc. But a knee injury did force the late great Chris Champion out of the match, and yeah, I mean, Kwan, I mean, had I don't want to say a nice little run, but I mean, he wrestled Cactus Jack at Fall Brawl. I mean, he obviously was starting a feud with Ricky Steamboat. They thought something of him, so. I don't know, but the replacement is a Hall of Famer in Paul Orndorff, so no complaints here.
Yeah, it was Orndorff and Steamboat was a main event in 1986 in WWE, so, I mean, it's definitely not a step down. I believe that's Steamboat beat Orndorff for the title previously, so this turned into a rematch, so it all worked out.
Absolutely, yeah. I believe he won that back at the Clash 24 in August, so not too far removed.
Yeah.
And once again, let's table that for a second because I do have a question about that. So when Orndorff comes out, this is his first time with the Assassin, correct, as his manager?
As far as I remember, it might be one of the only times that I remembered.
And the one thing, man, got to give Paul Orndorff credit. The Paula chants are deafening. I mean, right from the get-go, it is Paula, Paula, Paula. Man, Orndorff is great, and I mean, he was a great heel at this time.
Yeah, he really stretched that out a long time because he was pissing fans off as far back as 1984, 85, and he kept it going all the way up to this point. So,
yeah, I always thought Orndorff was a great heel because you look at him and you could be like, yeah, he's a dick.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, he truly didn't have to do anything. And sometimes that is because of the character that you've built up and the work that you've done in the past. And sometimes it's just God made you look like a freaking asshole, and they did. Yeah. And so great.
And there are certain Garden shows you can go back and, I listened to later on, watch a little closer than I would have as a kid, but you can hear when they're like have a graphic on the screen or something and Orndorff's just walking to the ring and not really the focus, but you can hear him jawing with fans with such expletives that you would never be allowed on TV, but you can hear Orndorff making sure everybody knows he's a bad guy and he's a real bad guy, and he will use whatever choice of language he needs to prove that.
So going back before, when we were talking about Orndorff and Steamboat battled over the TV title, a few months before. And then after that, Steamboat had already dropped it again to Steven Regal. So during the whole match, Steamboat is very, very aggressive. Like he is like almost like this is a blood feud. It is like he just like snapped. It's crazy. I mean, he's pushing the ref. He's showing those I'm so crazy heel tendencies. Even and for somebody like Steamboat, who is just a foundational element of face wrestling, right? I mean, he is like, when you look at, hey, how to be the greatest face of all time, maybe face of all time, it might be Ricky Steamboat, right? And so I was a little confused. To me, it was a little jarring to have him so angry and mad, like he was fighting this enemy that, freaking stole his wife from him, for Paul Orndorff, who like I said, it was a last minute replacement. And that to me was just really weird. It's like, what the hell did Paul Orndorff do to Steamboat here? And the answer was nothing in the last couple of months. So I just felt that was the only weird thing about this match, is that I just felt Steamboat was a little too aggressive for what warranted the match. But did that bother you, or did you even notice that or care about it? Or was like, hey, they've known each other for so long, he still just freaking hates Paul Orndorff?
I did note that it was odd to see Steamboat control the match so much. I mean, it seemed like to the point where he was really in control and maybe not aggressive. I don't know if that's the word, but just control was like the thing to me. Usually you just wouldn't see him, on the offense so much in a match normally, but this one did stand out.
Yeah, to me, I'm thinking if it was supposed to be Yoshi Kwan, he cost him, the big match against Vader. I could see him being really pissed off. Orndorff, when it just felt a little interesting for them to kind of go that approach in this match. But the good news is it's Ricky Steamboat and Paul Orndorff, so it was snug, it was crisp. There was a great story. I honestly this was a very, very fun watch, and it was a great, great match. I mean, it was good action on the inside, on the outside, a little bit of everything. And like I said, it wasn't a cookie cutter Steamboat match or cookie cutter Orndorff match. It was unique enough. I think having the assassin on the outside was pretty cool. And we also got, Nick Patrick, the referee, yelling at his dad. So that was kind of neat too. A nice little benefit there. But basically the match ends about 18 minutes and 45 seconds where when Steamboat's outside, the assassin does his thing, man, loads up the mask, gives him the headbutt and causes a count out. So even though the finish was a little overall, this was a great match. I loved it. And I'm glad that Yoshi Kwan, I don't want to say I'm glad that he hurt his knee because you don't want to wish injuries on anybody, but this was a damn good replacement.
Yeah, I feel like this is a bit of a hidden classic we might have discovered. I actually put WLS Hidden Classic here in case we ever want to mark these that we have no memory of whatsoever, but turned out to be a really great match. And the Assassin, I'm trying to rack my brain and remember how this all came about, but I do remember in May at Slamboree, the Assassin kind of came up out of nowhere and was really pushing a feud with Dusty Rhodes that night to the point where I was hoping like, wow, they're going to wrestle tonight, something's going to happen. I don't think anything ever came of that. But they were really pushing it that night. So I think Assassin just kind of moved into a manager role for a bit at that point. And I know he was part of the creative team too, I believe. So that probably played a role. But I didn't really remember him as Orndorff's manager before this.
Yeah, and it's an odd fit, right? Like, I mean, when you think of managers that could corner Paul Orndorff, the Assassin, I don't know if he's the guy that jumps to the top of the list. I don't know. What say you?
The old school connection, maybe a little bit, but not the first guy I would think of. I mean, I think of Heenan, of course, with Orndorff mostly when I think about managers, but maybe that's why it was short-lived.
So, Donnie, actually, I just pulled this up because it had me thinking about the Assassin. So he did manage Pretty Wonderful. So he did manage them, Orndorff and Roma, as well as it says here that he also managed the Equalizer. I don't know if that was just a couple matches or something, but he did make a couple more pay-per-view appearances.
Interesting. It's semi in my brain. It's just not coming up fully, I guess.
So the match itself, Meltzer would give 3.5 stars. I think that's fair. I might even give it a little tick higher. The finish I get probably wasn't great for the star system, but I mean, this is a 3.5 star if it's anything. So I feel pretty good about that rating. And I mean, I think everybody should go back and check this match out. It was pretty darn good.
Yeah, I'd like to see these guys wrestle in the 80s in WWF. I don't know if they ever had a one-on-one match, but I would have liked to see that. I feel like both were a little bit of a step down because they were main eventers in WWF. Here, they took a little bit of a step down. Steamboat and Orndorff, they both had time away from wrestling, I think, in between at certain points and changed their gear a little bit. I don't know. That's like a weird thing with me. It's like they have certain colors and stuff that really look good in the 80s and WWF, and they darkened it up a little bit here, and Steamboat had his family man hair a little bit, so I think that took away a little bit from him too, because they pushed the whole he's a family man with the song and all that. It really took away from the headband karate style Ricky Steamboat we saw in the 80s.